Hold on to your wallets, folks, because 2023 saw a jaw-dropping rise in food costs that left many Americans stunned. Welcome to a world where the cost of your morning coffee, your favorite fruit, and even the staple loaf of bread skyrocketed in a way that was nothing short of shocking. We're talking about 2023, a year that will be etched in the minds of many for the staggering increase in food prices. Just to paint a picture, let's delve into some startling statistics. Imagine a world where the price of a loaf of bread, a basic necessity, increased by a whopping 30%. Or, consider the cost of your favorite fruits, soaring by an alarming 40%. These aren't just numbers, they represent the reality of the food cost scenario in 2023. But it didn't stop there. The cost of meat, a staple in many American diets, saw a rise that was nothing short of hair-raising. Beef prices increased by an astounding 50%, while the cost of poultry witnessed a shocking 45% surge. Seafood lovers weren't spared either, with a 35% increase in the price tag attached to their favorite fish and shellfish. And for those with a sweet tooth, the cost of sugar and confectionery items rose by an eye-watering 40%. The simple joy of indulging in a sweet treat became a luxury for many. These skyrocketing prices weren't just limited to fresh produce and groceries. A trip to your favorite restaurant or cafe? That too became significantly more expensive, with an average increase of around 40% in the cost of dining out. In short, 2023 was a year that saw the average American spending a significant portion of their income on food, a change that caught many by surprise and left a dent in many wallets. So what led to this wallet-draining phenomenon? Let's dig into the reasons behind this unprecedented rise in food costs. Climate change isn't just about hotter summers and melting ice caps. It's also hitting us where it hurts the most. Our food budget. Climate change, friends, is a silent predator, stealthily creeping into our lives. It's not just about polar bears losing their homes or coral reefs bleaching. It's about something as fundamental as our daily bread, our food. You see, climate change triggers extreme weather conditions. We're talking about droughts that parch the land, floods that sweep away crops, and heat waves that scorch the earth. These are not just dramatic headlines, these are devastating realities that farmers across the globe are grappling with. Take, for instance, the wheat fields of Kansas. In 2022, a prolonged drought hit the region, causing a drastic drop in the wheat yield. And you know what happens when the yield drops. Yes, the price shoots up. So your morning toast or the pasta for dinner suddenly becomes more expensive. Or consider the coffee plantations of Brazil. Unusual frost in 2023 caused significant damage to the coffee crop. The result? Your daily cup of joe now makes a bigger dent in your wallet. And it's not just about these two examples. We're seeing a global pattern here where climate change is causing widespread crop failures. From the rice paddies of Asia to the cornfields of Iowa, the story is the same. Extreme weather conditions are wreaking havoc on our food supply, leading to increased food prices. The ripple effect is felt across the food supply chain. Higher crop prices mean higher costs for food manufacturers, which in turn means higher prices for consumers. It's a domino effect, and we're at the receiving end of it. As the climate keeps changing, our food bills keep climbing. But climate change isn't the only culprit here. Inflation, the silent thief, has been busy in 2023, sneaking into our grocery bills and walking away with more of our hard-earned money. You see, inflation is a bit like a monster under the bed. It's not always visible, but when it rears its head, it can create havoc. And this monster has been particularly active recently, impacting not just our food costs, but everything from fuel to clothing. But how does this all work? Picture this. You walk into your favorite grocery store and head straight for the bread aisle. You reach out for your usual loaf, only to find that it's no longer priced at $2, but $3. That's inflation in action. The silent thief that takes away the purchasing power of your dollar, making everything costlier over time. But why does this happen? Well, inflation is a complex beast. It's often driven by a combination of factors like increased production costs, higher wages, and even government policies. When the cost of producing goods goes up, manufacturers pass on these costs to consumers. This means everything from your morning toast to your dinner beans ends up costing you more. Inflation has been particularly high in 2023. Factors like the ongoing pandemic and the subsequent economic fallout have added fuel to the inflationary fire. The result? Higher production costs, labor shortages, and increased transportation costs, all contributing to a higher price tag on your grocery items. But it's not just about numbers and percentages. Inflation affects real people in real ways. It means less food on the table, tougher choices at the grocery store, and more stress about making ends meet. Inflation is a bit like a monster in a horror movie. You never know when it's going to pop up or how big it's going to be, but when it does appear, it can have a big impact on our daily lives and wallets. Inflation has certainly had a big bite out of our budgets, but there's one more factor that's been stirring the pot. If you thought getting your latest online purchase was a hassle, wait till you hear about the supply chain issues affecting your food. Imagine this: your favorite bag of chips, those succulent apples you love, or the coffee you can't start your day without, are all at the mercy of a complex web of processes known as the supply chain. From the farmer's field to your kitchen, the journey of food involves multiple steps like production, processing, distribution, and finally, retail. When this chain is disrupted, it can lead to increased food costs. One of the biggest disruptions we're seeing today is labor shortages. In an industry that relies heavily on manual labor, the pandemic has made it difficult for people to work. Farmers can't harvest their crops, factories can't process food, and stores can't stock their shelves if they don't have enough workers. This not only leads to food wastage, but also drives up the price of what does make it to the market. Then, there's the issue of transportation. Think about it: your food travels, sometimes thousands of miles, before reaching your plate. Delays or disruptions in this journey can be costly. Bad weather, port congestions, or even a single stuck cargo ship can have a domino effect, leading to food shortages and consequently higher prices. And let's not forget about fuel costs. The price of oil has a direct impact on the cost of food. Higher fuel prices mean higher costs for everything from running farm machinery to transporting goods. When fuel costs rise, so does the price of food. It's as simple as that. So we have labor shortages, transportation issues, and increased fuel costs all throwing a wrench in the food supply chain. These aren't isolated issues, they're interconnected, and they're all contributing to the rising cost of food. With all these factors at play, it's no wonder food costs have soared. But what does this mean for different segments of the population? The soaring food costs have made a big splash, but who's getting soaked the most? The rising food costs have touched every corner of our society, but it's the most vulnerable among us who are feeling the pinch more acutely. Our low-income families, individuals who are already stretched thin, are grappling with the harsh reality of deciding between putting food on the table or paying critical bills. For these families, every penny counts, and when the cost of essential food items skyrockets, it's not just their wallets that are affected, it's their health, their children's nutrition, and their overall well-being. Then we have the middle class. Often hailed as the backbone of our economy, these families and individuals are not immune to the effects of soaring food prices. They might not face the same dire choices as low-income families, but rising food costs mean less disposable income, less savings, and more financial stress. It's a burden that weighs heavily, creating a ripple effect that touches every aspect of their lives. Let's not forget about our elderly population. Many of them live on fixed incomes, and when the price of food soars, their budget doesn't stretch to meet the increase. They're left with a heartbreaking choice: buy less food, choose cheaper and often less nutritious options, or cut back on other necessities like medication or heating. In tandem with these realities, we're seeing the increased burden on food banks and community support programs. These lifelines for many are now stretched beyond their limits. They're facing unprecedented demand, and with food costs soaring, their purchasing power is diminishing. It's a vicious cycle that leaves the most vulnerable at risk. So, you see, the impact of rising food costs isn't just about dollars and cents, it's about people, our neighbors, our friends, our families, it's about the health of our communities and the fabric of our society. The ripple effects of these soaring food costs are far-reaching, but what can we do about it? As food costs continue to climb, it's time to arm ourselves with knowledge and strategies to tackle this crisis. So, let's delve into some practical tips and strategies to manage these rising costs. Firstly, budgeting. As simple as it sounds, maintaining a strict food budget can make a significant difference. It's about making every penny count. And yes, this might mean foregoing that extra snack or luxury item, but remember, it's about being smart with your money in the long run. Secondly, meal planning. By planning your meals in advance, you can avoid impulse buys, reduce food waste, and save money. Meal planning also allows you to make the most of what you have in your pantry, ensuring nothing goes to waste. Next, let's talk about shopping smart. This could mean buying in bulk, looking for sales, or even growing your own food. Every little bit helps. And don't forget to consider local farmers markets. They often offer fresh produce at competitive prices, and you'll be supporting local businesses. Now, beyond these personal strategies, there are potential policy changes that could help tackle the food cost crisis. For instance, policies that encourage sustainable farming could reduce the environmental impact of food production and potentially lower costs. In addition, policies that provide support for low-income families, such as increased food stamps or subsidies, could help those most affected by rising food costs. While these policy changes require action at a higher level, it's important to remember that we as individuals also have a role to play. By staying informed about the issues, advocating for change, and implementing smart strategies in our own lives, we can contribute to the solution. While food costs may be rising, remember that knowledge is power. Stay informed, stay prepared, and stay resilient. Because when we're armed with the right knowledge and strategies, we can navigate any crisis, even a food cost one. As we wrap up, let's take a moment to digest all we've learned about the rising food costs. We've seen how climate change is affecting our food supply, leading to a significant increase in prices. We've also delved into the inflation monster, a complex beast that's causing our grocery bills to skyrocket. We've examined the supply chain issues that are adding to the problem, creating a perfect storm of factors that are pushing food costs to all-time highs. And let's not forget the impact this is having on different population segments, from families struggling to put meals on the table to seniors on fixed incomes who are finding it harder and harder to make ends meet. But it's not all doom and gloom. We've also discussed possible solutions to tackle this crisis, from sustainable farming practices to policies aimed at strengthening our supply chains. In the face of soaring food costs, let's not forget the power of community, resilience, and informed action. Together we can weather this storm.